Welcome back, everyone. This next review I'm doing is taking a look at the Ultra Class figures of the new Cyberverse toy line. There are actually 3 figures in this assortment, but I have decided that I just have no desire to pick up the Bumblebee for this size class. Because as much as I dislike the Warrior Class one, this larger one is just atrocious to look at in its robot mode. Basically just has the entire back of the car hanging off of it. It looks like a one-step changer, and I can't bring myself to buy it. So instead, we're going to look at the only 2 decent figures from this assortment. We got Grimlock and Starscream here. If you saw my last video, you already know that there's a Warrior Class Starscream that's a bit smaller than this one. So we will get a look at how those 2 compare to each other. So with that preamble out of the way, let's take a look at these. Grimlock, as expected, turns into a mechanical T-Rex, and he takes a pretty interesting new spin on the old design. See, he's got what appear to me kind of missile pods on his hips here. His angles and proportions are a bit more cartoony looking. Instead of using a deep gold for details, he uses a bright yellow to hammer home the cartoonishness. Arms are on ball joints, so they do move around a little bit. His mouth can open, but doesn't stay open. And the knees will bend. Hips will move around. So he has some articulation, some level of posability, but not a whole lot. And just like all the other toys in this line, he has an action gimmick. For Grimlock, you push down on this little button right here, and it does that, which is definitely one of the cooler gimmicks. So basically fire shoots out of his neck and he breathes fire out of his mouth. And it looks pretty cool. I think this might be my favorite action feature out of the line so far. Just looks really neat having him breathe fire and having some sort of a flame exhaust effect on his neck there. So definitely digging that. Grimlock's robot mode carries over most of the classic motifs and tropes of the Grimlock design. He's got the dino claws on his wrists there. The tail turns into his legs. He's got a mouth plate, though it's silver as opposed to just being black like the rest of his face. He does have the dino head just kind of hanging way off the back there, which is a little different from how it normally is. From it's kind of folded back up here. Grimlock is very lacking in articulation. He can move at the hips, but his knees don't bend at all, and there's no ankle tilt, so he can only stand in this A stance. The arms/dinosaur legs do retain all of their articulation, though, so you do have that. Head doesn't move. But what he lacks in articulation, I can say he definitely makes up for in just design. Grimlock looks very cool. Obviously he's cartoony in a way, because that's the style of the show. But he's one of the best looking robot modes I've seen from this so far. He seems very heavily armed. Imagine being able to launch missiles from your shoulders. Doesn't carry a weapon like a sword or anything, but none of the characters really do in this toy line, so that's to be expected. But overall, I do like Grimlock. Just like with the Warrior Class toys, I don't think his design is worthy of the price tag he goes for. But knowing that I'm probably going to feel that way about every toy in this line, I accept that he is one of the better ones introduced. Here's Starscream in his jet mode. And you can notice these very big, missile frames underneath. And those are a big part of his action gimmick. So right here, there's a little lever. And if you pull it back, these launch out. And they have this really cool kind of cluster bombing effect where, the missiles, you have kind of the exhaust going and they're just shooting out in different directions. Very anime-like. You can picture a Macross just shooting missiles everywhere. Pretty neat looking. They do end up coming off looking like sea anemones sticking out of them a little bit, but if you know what they're supposed to be, they look pretty good. The jet mode itself is incredibly weak. It's definitely this toy's weak spot. It does make sense that you have a smaller cockpit underneath the bigger cockpit here, and his whole chest is visible. Doesn't look like the top of a jet at all. You can very clearly see his arms and his legs. I mean, calling this a jet is being very generous. Even the warrior class toy, for all of its faults, does pull off a more competent looking jet than this toy does. So it's one of the few things that this toy actually does better, the small one. So the jet mode's very disappointing. It was definitely sacrificed to make the robot mode look a little bit better. Though it does have a cool action gimmick. I do like that. Now moving on to Starscream's robot mode. You can see it's very bulky looking, mainly because of these big missile pod things here on his wings. And I will say that this toy is not very accurate looking to the character model. He doesn't have his little Norway blasters on the arms. Wings are, enormous. I think this is meant to represent his little shoulder crests here, though it doesn't pull it off very well. They're supposed to be very obviously attached. His shoulders right here and, red. I will give this toy props for the fact that the legs are actually painted on this one, and that looks a lot better than the warrior class one. So overall, I think this one looks better than the warrior class. Kind of an interesting, heavily armed look for Starscream. Though, if you're looking for something that is more show accurate, this is not that toy. It might be better with scale, when you have him stand next to, say, like Bumblebee. He should be a good bit taller than B is. But if you are looking for that show accuracy and the design elements, you're probably going to want to go with the, can't believe I'm saying this, but go with the warrior class one. There you have it. The only two figures that matter out of the Ultimate Class Wave. Overall, I do like these two. I definitely like them more than the majority of the warrior class for this toy line so far. They're not perfect. Starscream does come off looking a little cheap when you start seeing kind of all the mechanics and stuff showing through from his transformation. And his jet mode is just absolutely abysmal. Grimlock overall is a better package. Both of his modes are quite good looking. So if you want Grimlock, so far this is like the only real way to get him. Starscream, kind of up to your personal preference whether you want this one or the warrior class, though if you're looking at scale, I would definitely grab this guy. But yeah, that's it. This was a quick review. There's only two figures to look at, and they're quite simple. So let me know what you think of them. Do you plan on picking them up? I look forward to hearing your guys' feedback. And with everything said, I will see you all next time.